Hi guys, we've got a review of a couple of 3-axis gimbals today. One of them you probably already know about, which is the Zhiyun Crane. This is the one that supports the 5D Mark III, so it's this slightly bigger version with a slightly bigger motors. And the main point of today's review is the Wondlan SK01, aka Wondlan Skywalker is what they call it. There's quite a lot of reviews already on the internet about this one, so we'll mainly be looking at the Wondlan today, looking at what you get with it, what features are, and best of all, we'll have a little comparison to see which one is more stable. It's just to give you a more informed choice of when you are going to buy a gimbal, because they're pretty expensive pieces of kit, and they're both fairly different when you're using them. They claim to do the same thing, so we'll put some of those claims to the test. We'll do the test on a 5D3 and a A7S II, just so we have a comparison of what people are filming with today as well. So guys, first off, we're going to see what's in the box. Important to see what you get with your purchase. Looking in the Wondlan first, we have got some paperwork. It just goes through some of the features. There's 5 modes on this, so it'll just tell you what those 5 modes do. We have a handle. The handle is wireless out of the box, so it'll help you if, for example, you want to put the gimbal on a tripod or something, you can control it wirelessly, which we will go through a little bit later. So we have got a handle. Let's just pop that there. We've got the gimbal itself. Very well made. It's extremely strong and sturdy. And just drop that down there. You've got a charger. Really nice charger, proper charger for a change. You can get all the 4 batteries in there. This gimbal does take 5 batteries, however. You can charge 4 at a time. The battery in the handle lasts 24 whatever hours, so it lasts a long time. So you don't need to charge it that often, but you probably should buy yourself a spare set of batteries when buying anything for filming anyway. So what we have is some wireless antennas. This is just to, like I was talking about, the wireless feature of this. And that's pretty much it. Oh, you got a plate. And some other stuff like power cable, USB cable, stuff you're not gonna need immediately, let's just say. So you've got the universal plate. Now, on the packaging it says that this gimbal can support every quick release plate. And it says that in its wording. So any quick release plate you've got, apparently the Wondlan can support it, and that's what it says on the packaging and marketing. But I can't fit a Manfrotto plate on it. That was one of the main reasons I purchased it. Was to, skip between tripod A, tripod B, monopod, gimbal, and it will just accept my Manfrotto plate. But I still haven't worked out how that particular feature works. So let's just move this one slightly out of the way and have a look what we're going to get in the crane. It's probably packed a bit neater. If you've got OCD like I have, that's a really good, handy feature. Packaging is important. You've got the gimbal, which is noticeably lighter than the Wondlan one. That just feels like it's made of steel or something, and it just feels more premium. But that's not to say they're not going to do the same job, because they're going to carry the same amount of weight. So clearly it's just a texture thing, and also how much metal they've used. It comes with a handle, which is what you put the batteries in. You just screw that into there. It comes with a really nice charger as well, and it takes 2 batteries. They do very nice of them to actually give you a spare pair of batteries. So you really don't need another set of batteries if you're shooting all day. Battery life on this crane is up to 12 hours on one set of batteries. So that's really handy that they've given us the extra batteries. The Wondlan, however, has a battery life of 2 to 5 hours. So I'd imagine it'd be 2 hours if it's imbalanced or not balanced correctly, and up to 5-6 hours if it's balanced well. A big difference in battery life, and they don't give you a spare, but they do give you a nice charger. Buying replacements is cheap. I've purchased some replacements for about £5. Important thing to know about some of the claims they're making. We all know that the Crane has got encoders. That's probably why the battery life is so good. And Wondlan, they don't mention it having encoders. But that is a fairly new piece of tech, especially with power management and just keeping the motors generally hot and cool. And it doesn't claim to have it. It does claim to have lots of other features. If you really care about the technical stuff, really only care about how it performs in the field, and I'd imagine that's what you're all really concerned about as well. So now we've seen what's in the box, we'll have a little talk about some of the features, and that'll be starting with the Wondlan. So looking at the Wondlan gimbal first. So I've got a couple more items. I've got a slider, got an A7S. I'm filming on the two 5Ds, so they're only going to feature when we're doing the actual test and when I'm showing you some balancing. So we're going to grab our gimbal, grab our handle. What we're going to do is you simply screw this into the back, into the bottom. Right, just like that. So that is pretty much our gimbal setup, ready to go. Being a wireless handle and a gimbal, it will have a little mini antenna thing, which you do have to put onto the handle, which I thought was a bit, maybe a slight oversight, because the handle and the gimbal are so close together that it probably could have managed to get away with just a little bit more range in the handle. That, you know, you don't have to put this thing on, because it's just another thing to do, especially when you're out and about trying to film. You want speed, so that slightly annoyed me. Other than that, that is it. 4 batteries go in this little compartment here. 1 battery goes in the handle. Takes seconds. You know, you don't really need to see too much about that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mount our gimbal on an A7S. And what we've got here is a very heavy A7S. So we're going to be doing that first. It's got a MovCam cage on it, and it's got an adapter, and it's got a Sigma 35mm 1.4, and that makes it, you know, heavy, almost 2 kgs heavy. So in comparison to a Canon 5D3, that is, you're putting a Canon on with a 24-70 lens. I did weigh it with my kitchen scale. There's like 200 gram difference, which isn't much. So we can just balance it on this, and you get an idea of how we're going to get on. So first we've got the plate. We'll put the plate on. And it's as quick as that, really. You just screw it on. And the next part is going to be balancing the camera. It is fairly quick to do. The only axis that might take a bit longer is going up and down here. So put this on here. Now the mount is actually really nice, what we're using to put the plate on. I used to have a Beholder DS1, and that thing was a nightmare to put the camera on. I was not a fan of that at all. So quickly balancing it. What you also can always remember is when balancing. There's lots of videos on balancing. I'm just showing you how quickly I can do this one. Yes, so generally I've always got my setup ready on the gimbal. I'm always going to use it with the same lenses. I always use a 35mm, so it's usually always balanced. But today it is not, just so I can show you how quickly we can get it balanced. So as you can see, it's moving that way. What we'll do is we'll just slide this that way with some of the little adjustment knobs. It is very easy to do, let's say. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the... It does of course help, but it doesn't have to be perfect, because this gimbal claims to take, 2 kgs easy. So if it cannot hold our weight here, then we'd be a little bit disappointed that it's not doing what it claims to be able to do. So we're slightly off. And as anyone will tell you, it's pretty much why I put it in the box balanced. I always use the same lens because I don't want to go through micro adjustments every time. It's really, especially if you're shooting a wedding or something, you need to get out there and start filming. But as I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. So let us just turn it on for now, and when we really need to, we'll go ahead and balance it. So on button, you hold a joystick down, and it's pretty strong gimbal, so if we turn it on, we'll see, yeah, it's still got no problem picking the camera up, and there you go. Very steady gimbal. Like I say, it can hold quite a lot of weight. This is easy 2 kgs, mainly because of the adapter and the MovCam cage. I usually use it with a slightly lighter 35mm, which is the Zhiyun now, but yes, we will see how well it does in the testing. But that's it set up really quickly. So one of the big selling points with the Wondlan gimbal is its wireless function, and that wireless function is with the pan and tilt head. And what you can do is obviously you can screw the base and the handle off, and then you can just screw the actual gimbal part itself onto anything. Tripod, as we have it here, on a slider, and they also advertise that you can put it on a crane or a drone. Now, I'm not sure you can mount that on a drone, it's really heavy, or maybe a helicopter, but they say you can. But for now we're going to keep it on the slider. And now this is going to be really handy to get perfectly, perfect pan shots. It is so smooth. And it's also very easy to set up. So this will be good for movie makers, of course wedding photographers, but think if you're making a movie, it's paramount that everything is silky smooth. So all you'll need to be concentrating on, or if you've got yourself a motorized slider, that would even help it even more, is getting the slider movement right. The gimbal is actually, again, stabilized still, so it's still doing some of its stabilization work to help maybe get some of the jitters out. So that is, and then you can pan so smooth whichever direction you want to go. Usually if you're sliding that way, you're panning that way, and that's what looks so cinematic these days, especially what everyone's doing. Very easy to use, it's completely smooth, it's completely silent, and it's going to add value to whatever production you're doing. It's a very good selling point. Also, you can mount it upside down, so you can use it on a crane. That is a major thing, actually, in my opinion. Imagine you are making a film, however a film isn't, we haven't got big budgets to use big cranes out in the field, but if you're making a short film or documentary, so to speak, and you've got a crane, you can mount this on the crane, and it was going to work, up, down, left, right, just like a motorized pan tilt head. The advantage of doing this way is how quickly you can put it on a crane. Anybody with a crane will probably tell you how long is it going to take to set up. You're going to get cables, you're going to have wires, and you have to tie it all together to, for safety purposes. But this, you screw it on, you're good to go. And it's going to do a very similar job. So that's really something to consider if you are making films with cranes. And that is something I will test, because I have got a crane, and of course it does take a long time to set a crane up. It takes equally the same amount to set the crane up as it does to set the head up. So if I can set a crane up in a few minutes and then just screw it, the pan tilt head on, how much time is it going to save me? And on top of that, look how neat it looks. You've got no cables running, power, if it runs out of power, you just take the batteries out. You're using it on A7S2, the A7S2 broadcasts its picture as well to a tablet. So if it's on a crane, you can have the A7S2 broadcasting a picture, you can have the crane head mounted, and it's all wireless, but that'll be a different test for a different day. So this is a unique selling feature, how wireless it is. The Zhiyun Crane is wireless also, but you can't remove the handle, so you've got to think it'd be much higher. And obviously it'll be less stable because it'll be on a handle. So that is a special feature that this has got over, some of the other gimbals out there. First off, we have the Wondlan gimbal, and this is me walking naturally. As you can see, we've got a lot of shake. I'm making no attempt here to stabilize the footage. And what I'm having a look at just on the left hand side particularly is a lot of shake. The shake is actually going left to right, up and down, which tells me that the gimbal is very much either off balance or is totally struggling. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's very well balanced because I did double check a couple of times, and the Wondlan gimbal is easier to balance than the Zhiyun one. So that footage was not impressive. Moving over to the Zhiyun Crane, and this is the same. I'm making no attempt to smoothen out the footage, and it does look much better to me at the moment. We are seeing an up and down movement, which is going to be natural walking movement, not seeing too much of the left and right or a bit of shake. So this is doing an excellent job, I would say. The way I'm walking as well, the ground is uneven, so this is doing a much better job of keeping things steady. Just so you know, again, I probably said it several times, but the camera being used is a 5D Mark III, and it's using a 35mm Yongnam lens. Moving back to the Wondlan gimbal, which is the SK01, and this is me trying to walk like a ninja as smooth as I can, and the result is still not good enough, I would say. I'm only going to give them one test as well, so I only had this one chance to prove me right or wrong, and I could go back and forth about 20 times with this one anyway, but sometimes you need to get a shot. You got one chance, and this is the chance. And as I said, the gimbal is very well balanced with the camera, and that wasn't very good. Moving over to the Zhiyun Crane, doing the same thing, keeping it as smooth as I can. Personally, I found it a little bit harder to balance the Zhiyun Crane gimbal, so this is probably a little bit less balanced than the Wondlan Skywalker, and this looks very good actually to me. I'm not seeing too much shaking up and down. The Zhiyun Crane gimbal is doing a much better job of doing the job it should be, and that's stabilization. This is a very scientific location, and I'm just walking around the clothesline, as you can see, and it is the follow mode. So as I'm walking, the head of the 3-axis gimbal is also just following my movement, and what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of shake up and down. It's not that bad though. It was definitely better than walking in a straight line. And this is the Zhiyun Crane. Again, both gimbals only get one chance to show me how good they are, and again, as suspected, the Zhiyun's probably a little bit better all round. Just as a bonus footage, what you're seeing now is a Zhiyun Crane holding the A7S2, and what no doubtly you're looking at is extremely smooth footage. So this camera A7S2 on the Zhiyun gimbal is extremely smooth. I could easily use this for professional work. So we've had a look at the test results. A quick mention about the test. The reason it was done in the darkest and dingiest alleyway I could find was because I wanted walls on both sides. Everything looks fairly smooth when there's an open space, but when you see the walls, you can see shaking in the corners. That's what you're really looking for on how stable footage is. So looking at the Wondlan footage first, and I would say it wasn't very good. If I'm being nice, at one point I thought it was handheld on one of the tests. It just wasn't very good at 3-axis gimbal stabilization. That is its primary function. So it is good at other things. We've spoken about the wireless, how good it is. It really, on those selling features, is great. but this is its primary function, and in my opinion it wasn't very good. I wouldn't use that in a professional situation. You've got to think, if you've got to take one shot and one shot only, and then that is the footage you got, you wouldn't be too happy with it. The Zhiyun Crane footage was much better straight out of the box, and it's also got an app where you can make fine adjustments. So if you're not happy with some of the settings, you can literally bang, change the settings in the app within a few minutes, give it another go until you've got your own personal settings, which after that you'll probably keep. And then, you know, it's got so many options and meaningful things that do work in that app. Whereas the Wondlan gimbal, I felt, this is it. What do I do now? So the footage was quite bad. It's a shame, really, because the product itself is very good. Its build quality is excellent. The features, the wireless features, especially, are a selling point in themselves. So that's something to consider, putting this on a slider and having something like that, especially for film production, where everything's got to be silky smooth. But ultimately, it still is a 3-axis gimbal, and that is what you probably brought it for. That's what I brought it for, and that is its primary role. Not very good at it. It's about £600. The Zhiyun is about £520. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. You can see why there's a big difference in the price for the features and the build quality. This thing could take probably an artillery strike and survive. It just feels very strong and heavy. Now, I'm not saying that this feels cheap at all. It feels really light, and that is going to be better in the long term, because ultimately it's going to put less strain on your arms. You know, there is no doubt in the quality of of the Zhiyun Crane. Just because it's lighter doesn't. I'm not saying it's not good or stronger or cheaper. But from a product like this, I'm expecting a little better. I will hold on for it a little while until they maybe release a firmware update. I think that's all it needs, because it's got much bigger motors. It can hold much more weight. Fundamentally, it wasn't a balancing issue, because this balances really nicely. It's very quick to balance. I think this is easier to balance than the Zhiyun Crane. But ultimately, once it's balanced, the best way to balance it is put a quick release plate on it. That way you'll never have to fine tune so much again. But you know, the end result, you can't deny that the footage is good, or is, you know, or isn't good, is probably what I'm trying to say. If I'm critical, I would say if I'd seen this review before, I would not have brought the Wondlan gimbal, because its primary role is 3-axis gimbal. So my recommendation is, if you're after a 3-axis gimbal, then buy the Zhiyun. You'll save some money as well. It also has a wireless remote function and everything else. The only problem I have with it is the size of the handle. If I was going to use it on a slider, it would already be, you know, about this high. If I was going to use it on a crane, it's probably not too bad, but it's not as good as that. So this was my first product review. So if there's anything else that you think I missed, or if you want me to do another test, then just put it in the comments, because I can, you know, go through a few more other tests with these items while we patiently wait for a firmware update to make this one better. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.